There we go. But I'm not able to switch between my screens. So I'm still figuring that out. Anyways, I love you guys. Thank you for my patience. You have entered the realm of Cassie without RJ on these technical issues for today's show. This is the Comp Queen with me, Cassie. And I have, for those of you that don't know, we have the Closers Olympics coming up this weekend. RJ is out of town with Elijah and his son for a hockey tournament in Ohio. And so I'm kind of left to my own devices. And I think people sometimes underestimate how important it is for me to do something by myself before I can replicate it. So I'm kind of winging it a little bit here. So I appreciate your patience on me getting started on today's live. I'm really trying right now to there we go. To get through my tech issues, which it looks like I've just gotten through. So, God bless you for your patience. I do not see any comments coming in yet. So maybe I got it all done in time and eventually we can go crop out that first minute of technical Cassie issues here. So I'm probably going to have someone double check this really fast before I get into pulling comps. There we go. I'm ready to rock and roll. Hi, Joey. It's so good to see you. I've got everything rocking and rolling here. God bless technology. It's so different, you guys. I know that this is a total side note nation, but so we have some new technology, some new computers and things like that here in the office. We're ramping up for some special things coming up. And I don't know if you guys know this, for you Windows or PC users, Windows 11 just came out, and so I've updated that. One of our new computers has Windows 11, and so it's so funny just with the simplest little can to me going until I'm you just get so used to navigating something. And so that also applies, and the reason I bring that up is one, obviously delay. Two, Titus, come here, bub. Two, we also end up having we get used to the systems that we use. Get used to clicking here and clicking there. And that really applies to comps and things like that too. So as you guys know, I typically go through multiple different softwares and show you guys how we use those different softwares to pull comps, how those different navigational tools apply. And so that applies to this too. So anyways, I appreciate your patience and your love for me and my little delays. So good to see you here, Joey. Let's go. We are ready to comp some ish. It's so good to see you, Jordan. Robert Blaine, my biggest fan. RJ wins the Closers Olympics in a landslide. You damn straight. Hashtag B. Hello, good to see you. Jamie, thank you. Hats off to you. Good sir. I will be comping one of your properties here shortly. Camzilla, that's right. We're going to get after it as long as it's not the mouse from the Crucible. I don't even, the mouse. So it wasn't the mouse at the Crucible. It was totally the computer froze while we were doing comps. And it was right during our last Crucible. And, I am one of those people that doesn't really have the best of filters, right? I am who I am. And I think once people kind of get to know your personality. They appreciate your authenticity. So I just do what I do. And I was so frustrated because while we were in the comps pulling portion of the Crucible, and I'm sitting there pulling a comp for a student Naaman to be specific, it was a little bit of a difficult comp, which is actually kind of rare for the area that it was in. Just because you technically could it's in a market where like things are selling very quickly. There's very low inventory, so you could technically kind of justify a little bit higher of an ARV without having some of those comps that will go on the appraisal, because people have been paying over the gap in appraised values in said market that we were working in. So it was one of those really frustrating things because the computer kept freezing. So all of that to say, one of the reasons that we didn't use a new computer for this past Crucible is we wanted to give ourselves a little bit time to get used to that Windows 11. Just because navigationally we are so used to using Windows 10, we're like boop, 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 right? Makes sense. But technically speaking, I think we would have been better off if we had switched the computers over on this particular past Crucible. And it was very sad and frustrating for me. So Lord willing, we can send said Titans here. They use our hotline, and they can come on these lives and we can get to comping, right? So fortunately, we definitely have lots of other opportunities to go over comps together with our Titans forever and ever. Amen. So speaking of Titans, my dude, good to see you, sir. Whoop, whoop, back to you. And damn gremlins. For those of you who don't know what he means by that, I love your reference. Just Google Gremlins and go watch that movie, even if it looks like it's straight out of 1985. It's worth it. Or maybe it's not if you don't know what it is. For me as a kid, I loved that crap. So, Chris in the classroom. Good to see you, good sir. Nice to see you. I was hesitant to wear a hat, but I was like, you know what? RJ wears hats on the live all the time, and I really wanted to wear a hat today. It's getting nice and cool here in Texas. So, Robin, good to see you, my darling. Titus just finally resigned to taking a nap while I'm comping, but he says hi back to you, Chris. So I appreciate you guys once again, and let's start to dig in. So the first property that we are going to comp is for Mr. Jamie Leblanc. I don't know if you've got to go back to the JOB today, but I want to hit yours first, and you were the first to submit, and then we'll hit up Joey's. And anything that you guys want to put here in the comment section, I will get to as many as I can get to today, but please feel free to understand I'm just not trying to do a 4-hour-long video, and I'm happy to continue to comp for you. If you're a Titan, hit that hotline up. If you're not, make sure you've added me, not RJ, on Facebook or Instagram. Feel free to send that message in there to me directly. I comp very quickly, typically when I'm not teaching comps, so it really is not a burden. Sometimes people will be like, well, I didn't want to bother you. It's not a bother. We appreciate your support here. That's why we have this show. It's a resource for you guys. And so I really, really, really appreciate your following, your signing in, your tuning in, and that's what we're here for. So I'm going to get right to it, and then we'll hit yours up too, Mario. I'm going to go ahead and start writing that down. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to get right into it. So a few housekeeping items when it comes to our comps, right, guys? I've seen a few principles I do want to go over because I repeat them, and I don't want you guys to go overkill on them, right? So one of those is I say that I don't want you to cross major roads. I don't want you comping things that aren't a blueprint property. And so sometimes people will say, well, mine is brick and that's vinyl siding, and so it's not a comp. I want you guys to start taking things with a grain of salt. These are basic principles, right? The major things I want you guys looking out for is if you have comps in the same neighborhood, you really want to be thinking about things that are going to come up on an appraisal, right? So you want to be thinking about a pool and an extra bedroom, an extra bathroom, extra square footage or less square footage, right? Those types of things right there, a garage, a general principle for the most part, even though it's not exact, is you want to add or subtract for roughly about $10,000 for things like that. So if your property does not have a garage, you want to subtract $10,000 if all of your comps do have garages, right? From what you find your comp value at. Same thing with a pool. Even though a pool can mean $20,000 in some places, you want to kind of look at that. See what those properties are selling for in addition that has pools, right? That's one that's kind of iffy, but a good rule of thumb, and we all know what they say about rule of thumb. Good rule of thumb is maybe do $5,000 for a half bath. Just do $10,000 for a bedroom or bath. You can comp a 3-bedroom that has the same square footage with a 2-bedroom if you don't have 2 bedrooms to go off of. So sometimes you're going to find those things. So these are basic principles that you're looking for. You're not going to be that far off. So yes, you do want to try to stay in the same subdivision, but just because you're not in the, there's areas in this country and a lot of markets in this country that have those neighborhoods where it's like 3 blocks and that's one subdivision, and there's 3 more blocks that were built a year later and there's another subdivision. So you just have to kind of use logic and reason there, right? There are times, and we have one property here right now in Texas that is in Plano, and it happens to be the same subdivision on either side of a busy road, right? So there's principles that you generally want to look for. So when I'm teaching those principles, you just really have to use logic and reason. And that's why I always sort in order of distance. So those are some housekeeping items I want to constantly refer back to so that we're not getting too strict on ourselves and saying there's no available comps. Titus, you better get your life together, sir. We're not doing this. So there's those basic principles I want you guys to understand. They're there for you, but you have to use kind of logic and reason. You've got to understand an appraiser is going to find things to appraise the property regardless. And what you're trying to do is pick the most likely, the most close. So sometimes it is better to go back further than, maybe a year. And sometimes it's just better to actually cross that major street, right? So you're just looking for the most likely comps that no one's going to pay. So, yes, Robin. Thank you, Laura. Laura. I almost called you Laura. It's really Lori. We know. I got ready real quick today. Robin says, hi, Titus. I'm going to have someone come get you. Do you want to say hi to Robin? Do you miss her? Oh, my goodness. Yes, I don't really want kisses on my face right now. So Titus doesn't always get to say hi very much anymore. I'm sure you guys will be seeing a lot more of him very soon. But he kind of tends to choose when Mama's on the phone or Mama's going live to start saying, I need attention right now. He's been asleep all day. So I'm like, oh, you can come in here. But he's a good boy. He's just a little bit of attention grabbing fool. So, all right, guys, I know, Robin, I knew you would appreciate that. Robin's a longtime supporter and she loves Titus. She's got Titus's twin at home. So, all right, guys, let's start getting right into it. I am going to start comping a property for Jamie here. So I'm going to get it pulled up for you. I'm going to probably take 2 seconds to let him out there because he's not calming down, but we'll get to that in a second. And I am going to try to go once again, as always, prop one, comp one in each sort of system here. Okay, so prop stream, Propelio, and batch. We love them all. We use them all. And oh goodness, I didn't realize I did that. And for those of you, if you're first time viewers, you'll potentially see why. A lot of times these days, uh-oh. Well, Mr. Leblanc, if you are paying attention here, sometimes you run into this in prop stream, where if the address, this is my biggest complaint actually that frustrates me. In prop stream, sometimes if you don't get that address just perfect, oh goodness, all the pop-ups. And you don't have the spacing just right. It's my numbers lock not working. Then it won't pull the property up, which is bananas and pajamas to me. See, it popped up right here in batch. So we'll get to comping yours on batch, Mr. Leblanc. Oh, isn't he a sweet boy? I thought you would appreciate that too, since we talked about our doggos when you were here. All right, so dig right into it. So this is supposed to be in good cosmetic condition. I tell you guys this a lot on our previous videos. I personally just like to go to the street view through actual Google Maps on another tab, but mostly because I'm on the live, and sometimes our pop-ups take a little bit longer to populate on the live, but I still even do this. So it looks like we probably don't have a garage thing that I note. The first thing that I note, sometimes you don't always see the correct information in those kinds of property details. Usually you can count on it, but again, we comp nationwide. So I'm kind of looking for an alley access. Do you get comp, or do you get garage through an alley access that maybe I'm not seeing? Things like that. You're also looking to see, what is your surrounding neighborhood like? Do you have commercial properties right there? It looks like none of these right here and the next two have garages, but this one certainly does. This one does not. So really back and forth there. But we have a good view. You've got a 2012 image capture, which you can see that that's when Google did their drive through and got it. So going under the property details, you will see that we've got a 2004 32 1374 square feet. Wood siding, so probably hardy. I don't see a garage here. So I'm going to go ahead and assume my garage stance is pretty accurate. The first thing that you want to do is obviously go in here, and you want to pay attention to your default settings, right? Hey, Titus, why don't you go see your Uncle Patrick for a little bit? Go on, big boy. Sorry, guys. I didn't want y'all to have to listen to him whining the whole time. I really thought he was going to be good. All right. So the first thing that you want to do when you're making these adjustments is just go ahead, and I like to open it up. A 2004 build. You should be in the good, but you'll want to just obviously check those. Maybe I want to go ahead and broaden this out on my default settings to include a little bit more square footage, since I only had a few comps pull up. We're going to keep this at 1 mile for now, and we're going to see what we populate by changing up those automatic default filters. Good of Uncle Patrick. Yeah, he's real good. All right. So when I opened it up just a little bit on that build here, it looks like it helped me a lot, right? I've got a lot of comps now. And so now you guys can kind of see why I'm always suggesting that don't just assume there's not comps and don't just go with exactly what is right there on those default settings, regardless of where you are comping at. Go ahead and determine and pick your comps, right? So what I actually want to do now is actually take this down to half a mile. I want to see what my closest comps in distance are. And frankly, I just don't need a lot of those, right? I want to see what we get here. So then I go down to my list view. A couple of things that you can do is you can select the closest ones to you, and you get this very clearly batch is gone with another update. If you've been watching all along, you can see that this looks new. So we have an update that has come out. So that's really exciting for me because you can actually, I believe now, go ahead and save your default set filter defaults. So you can go in here now, which I haven't done yet, but you can kind of open up your filter defaults and save those so that you can make those adjustments right out of the gate instead of, so if I want to ignore everything and I want it to be half a mile every time, and I want it to be 25% plus or minus the square footage or 30% or whatever, because I tend to start a little bit broader and then narrow it down, narrow it back in. And this was the perfect example as to why I do that. So, sorry, I was getting a phone call. So now you can go with this new update and you can change those to your preferences, right? So if you're not necessarily like me and you're not comping nationwide, you might be able to go a little bit more niche. Like for example, in DFW, I am a licensed agent. So on my MLS, I go in and I really, really, really have like very different default. I go the past 6 months. I usually start much more narrow versus broadening it out. But when I'm comping nationwide all day, every day, I tend to start broad, and I tend to start broad, and I then narrow it down. So there's however you get to the final result is really up to you. This tends to work for me faster when comping nationwide. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here. Obviously you are looking for these comps. You can click on that right there. You can click on those details. You can click right from there, right? The other, and it'll pull that property details up in a separate tab for you. I also tend to I like to go into this list view. I like to comp it by distance, or I like to sort it by distance rather, so that I am selecting, my closest comps right here to my property that I feel like an appraiser will choose given those settings, right? So I'm assuming one of these things is not like the other. These lower ones, right? These lower properties probably need rehab. They probably need some things. None of these are really crossing major roads. Again, we're going with the closest to the furthest. So I'm going to pick these 6. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start going and seeing what kind of photos I can get. So obviously this has a much nicer roof than a composition roof. It's got additional parking as well. Covered parking. So covered parking matters. We've got a closed in sunroom in the back. Property looks pretty clean on the inside. We've got maybe a she shed or I think that probably has at least electric run to it. So that would be an asset. on an appraisal for the positive. We've got a pretty clean house here, right? So this looks like it would be a really good blueprint property. 3.2, it's got a little bit more square footage. So this is a good property for me to keep on mind, keeping in mind that they have covered parking that we do not have. So I would want to subtract, about 10,000 there, 10,000 here, it looks like. They could use some carpet cleaning. So I'm really liking this one. It has a little bit less square footage, so I'm feeling pretty good about keeping that one on there. Let's click on this bad boy. Covered parking again. That is built into the house, but does not look like it is quite as fancy as that first comp. Maybe adjust by like 5,000 there. Let's click back to this. I'm thinking this one is going to be very similar to our property. So 417 steam mill. Wait, this is our actual comp, isn't it? Or our actual subject property. Aha. Well, we hadn't gotten to this part, but our own property itself is a comp. If I am not mistaken here. So Jamie, this is going to tell us that they've got a property that well, oddly, no, something is wrong here. When I pulled this up, I was clicking on this, was I not? And it pulled up. Oh, what a dork. It's saying back too. All right, this one's a little bit outdated. And this one sold, and this is a little bit larger. This one sold at 118,500 at 614 Georgia. So I'm digging that. So I'm really liking the comps that I selected on this. I kind of want to go to the street view of this property to see what that parking situation is. So I'm going to do that and then search on Google over here. While that pulls up, I'm going to look at these last two really fast. They have an enclosed garage and they have one less bathroom, a little bit more square footage. So I think this is going to kind of shake out in the wash. I'm really liking these numbers. This was very clearly remodeled inside and out. So this is going to give us a good assessment. Looks like they had an enclosed or addition, perhaps. Maybe on the back porch. Sometimes you'll see that with the painted brick like that. Very clean though here. This has a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. So again, you would want to subtract for some square footage and subtract for some. So, I would kind of probably stick that one at like a 125. Unless you added the bedroom in your rehab plan, right? So I'm thinking these all really shake out, and I really, really, really like this as my ARV here, right? Because we really proved that, you could kind of justify some of it being a little bit higher, but that covered parking, you're really going to kind of either have to add it into the rehab number or you're going to have to subtract it from your ARV, right? So I really like this as an ARV. Maybe 115 you could justify up here. You do have a lot higher comps in this. It does kind of shake out. If you take away like perhaps one of the lower ones that we had selected, it really only, see how much it changes your value there? It's by $1,000. You're not hitting or missing by that much when you get all of these on an appraisal. You can get a little bit more technical, but when I'm pulling quick comps, I am not looking for the exact appraised value. I'm going based off of the principles. You select one of those and replace it I mean, you've got really good comps here within half of a mile that all make sense. Half of them had a covered parking, but half of them had a garage. That garage, if I'm trying to pick the three highest here and go with this 135, this 145, and this 118, we'll just round it up to 120, right? You're not coming in, even though you might get a higher ARV with those and it averages out to be that 135, right? You're still having to subtract $10,000. You have a very solid chance that if you add that covered parking to your rehab that you can justify a 125, or you could just simply say, I'm going to go with 115, and their rehab is up to them, your rehab is up to you. It's obviously your ARV. In any given situation, you are going to get more exact depending on how updated you are. So a cosmetic update here is going to do really good on the inside. You could take it further and you could paint the outside, and you could go at this very much HGTV style. You can add the carport, all of those things, but realistically, you don't have to, right? I'm not trying to sell the most expensive house in a neighborhood. I'm trying to put a really great product on the market, right? So you have several blueprint properties in there that you can really justify a 125. Now, you could sit there and say, is it going to get me that much more bang for my buck on the market? Maybe in this market. I really like the idea of, understanding what is really the cost to add covered parking in this. I'm going to assume it is around $5,000. So it's dollar for dollar. Do you want to do the extra work? Not really. So I'm going to go do the $115,000 ARV and let it shake out in the wash. Let it shake out on that appraisal. You might get 110. It's not going to change your numbers that much. You know what I'm saying? So there's your answer on that. What about the difference in year built 1960 versus 2004? I feel like you get credit, and you get credit. I guess I did not mention that. Apologies. So I want to show the screen again for you guys. So what he's saying is our property is much newer. You will get credit for that on an appraisal, right? But you're not going to get that much credit for it on an appraisal. Just being real. You should actually consider it being an easier rehab, if that makes sense. So I don't know what the interior of this looks like. So the way that I tend to go about it, even though it's not technically the right answer, right? So if this is a 2004 build, you saw all the countertops, you saw all of the finishes in those other houses. I am assuming that you have pretty clean finishes. I'll leave you set up for you really quick, guys, so that y'all can understand. Good cosmetic and make ready. So I want to clarify that for everyone else watching. For me, that means paint and carpet. Understand? He doesn't have to do the outside. You can add the carport. So run the numbers both ways, right? So if you say in this area, you can do 20-25 per square foot, and that is like your max rehab to flip it, instead of saying, well, I'm going to do like $10-15 a square foot. I would probably, with the information that I have from the seller on this, say I'm going to do $10 a square foot to CYA, right? That shakes out to about 14 grand, not even. And this is make ready. When the seller says $10,000 and it's make ready, makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and do $10 a square foot. I'm assuming that's paint, carpet, and some miscellaneous. I don't really see a 145 ARV on this. But if you want to spend a little bit more money, or if you see something different, go ahead and comp it in another product, right? So you're not going to get a $20,000 credit for your house being newer on an appraisal. You're still going to need those comps, right? But sometimes, since he did tell me he thought that he had a higher ARV, I'm going to comp it in more than one product and see what I get. And you guys know that my Atlanta, Lord baby Jesus, this might be a perfect example, sir, of why see, I don't know, sometimes it's very confusing to me, that estimated value. Okay, so in here your automatic filters are about the same, right? It doesn't have a build year. When you do a build year in, we're not seeing a lot of comps, and you will run into that into new neighborhoods. So if you want to subtract $10,000 and add $10,000 for having a newer house, great, but your comps aren't showing you that you're going to have anywhere near what that first initial value says right there. And that is based on an algorithm there, guys. I don't have comps that justify that, right? And let's go back to this MLS situation. This property details does not show here that this was listed on the MLS. I'm wondering, you can go and see the linked properties. You can see, like, it's crazy to me that they're coming up with this number, like where that is pulling from. I just don't see anything close to that. Maybe if you go back further in history, into this neighborhood, but I don't see it, on either platform here. Sometimes that means I'm going to go and I'm going to search my third option. And sometimes I'll just go double check on like a Zillow and try to figure out why on earth we're getting something so crazy as to an estimated value of 200 or 200 plus on both of those softwares, but I'm not seeing the comps that justify that, right? 2004 is old enough to where you should have some sales that justify that, you know? It's not like this neighborhood was built in the past 2 years, and you're just not going to get that much credit on an appraisal for that, you know? Hello, Patrick Brown Golden Girl. Is that in reference to my outfit? Hi, Jessica. So good to see you. So good to see you. Zachary, that's so very funny. I'm very golden in my outfit. So yeah, let's just go ahead and look really fast on this third platform, since this one is really weird. Look at this estimated value. Do you guys see that? Pretty crazy, right? Now let's go and see what they have for comps. Now well, unfortunately this happens sometimes, which means I probably can't pull comps here on this platform. So I'm kind of sticking to my guns. I definitely would not put 145 on it. You know, again, if we're definitely dealing with, let's just go ahead, and I always do this for our Titans. If I always ask them to put in what they think the estimated value is, okay? So this is a perfect example that I was talking about. This is sorted by distance. Look at the next one that's in our same subdivision. This house is closer in distance, but this house is in our same subdivision. And that's why sometimes it's like, okay, if you got a comp, it's a comp, you know? We looked at all the street views when we were comping in other neighborhoods, but just because this isn't the same subdivision doesn't mean it's not going to be used on an appraisal. They're going to pick the most likely, right? We don't have 2004 builds. We have to go ahead and figure out what the market is it can sustain. If you really feel like there's going to be a $70,000 difference, I mean, honestly, you would have to almost get an appraisal on this one, right? So let's just go ahead and assume, let's just sort this, right, by the dollar amount. Let's go with our highest comps. That's clearly not accurate. Okay, there's no 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom. And so that might be why some of those were doing that estimated value. Maybe this sold in a package. You got to go to that one of these things is not like the other. I am not finding more than one comp at 145 on any platform that I'm choosing that is in our square footage range. So, I mean, you can do a lot of things. You can broaden this up, but at the end of the day, I'm not seeing it. You know, I'm going to go with what is most likely. I found the exact same things on ours. I think we have another one sitting here justifying. I think there was only this one sitting right at 120 on batch. So I don't know if I saw this on 710 Georgia Street. You also can click both. Instead of just public record, you can click MLS or you can click both, right? So again, you want to deselect that. You want to go ahead and sort. You've got this. So you got an extra one here, I believe, on Henson, pulled from the MLS that you didn't have. More square footage. Hoping these will pop up fairly quickly. Yeah, I mean, this is an added comp. It does help. Excuse me, but it's not going to help that much, you know? So, I mean, I would select it. Covered parking and build year maybe coming out in the wash, being a wash, you know? You want to make sure you don't select them twice. You got to be careful about those things. When you switch this over to both. Excuse me, guys. Dry throat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Since we've got another couple good ones in here, I like to keep it balanced. So I'm going to still select our little babies right here. And let's see what we got. We got a higher number here. So, but I definitely can't. I was thinking 125 on there. You know, like I said, you could even almost justify a little bit higher. But 130, I mean, I'd feel thumbs up on that. But when you run your numbers and stuff like that, it's not going to make that huge of a difference. But, you know, we're right there in that range. So still pretty good. So that's my final answer. 130,000 makes sense to me. What's interesting about that? Look at that right there. As you guys know, this is a potential rental property as well. I go on to Zillow a lot of times and look at the current rent rates that are listed. And so what I would do is go ahead and at the numbers we discussed, sir, Mr. LeBlanc, if you are still watching, maybe just a smidge lower. I will run those in the calculator. I think we might be just a smidge lower, but let me just do some quick math. Yeah, maybe just a smidge lower than your original max offer that you had up there. But you're super close. Super, super, super close. All right. Just going to respond real fast to an agent's message. How do you price a house that is in a rental area? The ARV formulas don't seem to correlate correctly. You have a really good point there. And I'm really happy to go over an example with you on that if you have one for comping. And the reason that I say that is it really is run on rent rate and cash flow. So we can kind of go over those principles again, but you really do want to find the ARV because it is important how much equity you're going to have in it and what your cash out could be as a buy and hold investor. But your rent rate is also very important. You have several different factors to consider. And if you're running quick numbers versus more detailed numbers, that looks a little bit differently. So the example I just gave, I ran quick numbers. Okay. I ran very quick numbers in there. I didn't walk the property. I'm not sitting there going, you're not trying to, in most people's positions, you're not trying to go actually list the property. You're not, you know what I'm saying? You're at least getting a good number because you want to be very close. You don't want to be assuming you're going to get $175,000 or $200,000 like the algorithm pulled there. So you do want to dig into some details when it actually comes down to listing. So say you take a property down and you flip it, like in this market that I live in, right? I comped the property that I'm about to list here in 2 weeks. Okay. I comped it 2 months ago. And I want you guys to understand this. You are going to have to pull comps multiple times if you are buying real estate, if you are selling real estate, if you're listing real estate, if you're representing a buyer. Okay. So what's crazy about this, if you have a super slow market, maybe not. I'd still do it because I like to triple check my work. This is people's assets that you're dealing with. So it's important to get it right and do your best job. So I always also like to have more than one set of eyes on it. We have layers in our business, checks and balances. There's always at least 3 people that lay eyes on comps on a property in our business, right? So I am one of them. I comp almost every property that goes through our business more than once. And that's initial quick comps, right? As soon as we're here. Typically speaking, when a contract is sent off or we're making an offer, right? I then verify it before we go send photos out. I then verify it, when we're looking to either dispo it or purchase it or sell it. I do run multiple exit strategies. So when it comes to comping for rentals, there's principles that we live and breathe by. When you're talking to a seller, that's why we ask, is it tenant occupied? You need the current rent rate, and then you need to comp the potential rent rate. So we then run the numbers based on those factors. When you are, yes, sir, you're very welcome. When you are, you heard it was $10,000 for every $100 worth of rent. That's not a good rule of thumb. So you want to have a 1% rental in some markets, but some markets they want 2% rentals. I'm just going to be real with you. It depends on the market that you're in. So you really do want to make sure you pull comps. You really do want to make sure that, you're looking at what people are buying rental properties at also, which is totally plausible. So I'm happy to pull some rental comps on an episode. I know I can look back through the history of the episodes and see which ones I did rental comps on and which ones I didn't. But I'm going to actually move on, and you, sir, can actually always get into the hotline, and I can pull some rental comps for you. There is a rental value here on these softwares. Estimated rent. Again, I usually go and I check against Zillow for the actual. A lot of landlords post their properties directly to Zillow that might not be listed on the MLS. They'll just post, they self-manage their rentals, so they post it on Zillow, right? So you can kind of see what the other properties in your market are renting for, and pull some comps there and those are active, but typically speaking, people don't get too drastically high, and just verify that estimated rent rate. And then you want to look at it in your market. So on this one, I actually believe that Jamie looked at this and it could rent a little bit more than what this estimated rent rate said that it was. So I got 2 more comps to go through as of right now. So I'm going to pull those and we can kind of dig in to rents through the hotline, as well as I can plan some really good examples ahead of time for next week's episode as well, if you would like, sir. But if you've got one, you can send it in to the hotline. Pershing. Get into this one here. All right. I'm actually going to have this pulled up on PropStream and Propelio. Oh, Joey. Of course you send me one in that pulls nothing immediately. People be sending in their problem props. Let's see what we pull up here. Come on, Wichita, Kansas. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to start broadening this out a little bit already, since I am pulling no comps here. Lord baby Jesus. Is this just not working right? Or is this just... All right, let's try to see what we can do here. So since I pull no comps right out of the gates, I'm just going to minimize everything and look and see what I can pull in this market. I hate to tell you, sir, this is not looking good. So you guys really got to consider how good a property may or may not be based on how many people live there. But Wichita, Kansas should not be this empty. My goodness, they're acting. When the parents are away, the children will play, as they say. They're being awfully rowdy out there on the floor. Well, here we go, Joey. Good news. Now, I'm just gonna go into a side note nation here again, guys. We are nationwide. The reason we have multiple softwares is because we are nationwide. Did you just see what happened here? We had 3 different softwares. Only one of them could we pull comps on. When you are nationwide, we use them all. We love them all. So grateful for them all. I'm just saying. All right. So, boom, boom. I look at my closest little babies here, right? So this is build year is really important. I want to go over another principle here, you guys. On the newer homes, this is one of the reasons I also like to start broad, because we are nationwide. On newer homes, you can be usually a lot more, you can start a lot more niche on those build years. And I think honestly, when Batch originally built this, it was, they set their defaults based on the fact like a lot of their comps are pulled in those type of markets, right? And so that's why they changed it to where you can set your own defaults, because obviously it's not, I mean, our last example, we didn't have another 2000s comp, right, in the past year. And like I said, you can go back further to try to find 2000s comps. You can set those defaults, but you got to be careful on that, because the market shift could be important, right? On something like an older property, you can be a lot more flexible. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, things like that, I open up those build years by a lot more. So instead of it being plus or minus 10 years, I'm going to just be like anything until like 1980. 1970, something like that. So that's why I kind of just ignore those build years and I sort in distance and then look at the build years in that list view. So understand that, like, when you have older places like that, with a lot of older neighborhoods, there's not really that big of a difference between 1930 and 1950. How many times has the house been remodeled is making more difference. Like, what kind of condition we're in is making more difference. So just wanted to kind of go over that kind of key piece of little knowledge there, because it's a 1930 build. Again, I'm just going to immediately back out of that and address it in my list view. Okay. I want to see what this market is doing in the past, year is what I'm looking for. That is more important to me. What are we substantiating? I immediately right here, this is one of those examples where I can look over here and I can see we've got these precious little 130s, and they look all fine and dandy, but I'm seeing that there's some of these we have to be cognizant that looks like a pretty big lot. We have to be cognizant that we're not seeing nearly as many of those over here. We got to really look into our properties themselves before we consider, because this looks like it's a pretty busy road. Maybe actually not that bad. So we might be able to use those. That might be really good. I might like it. So then I'm going to potentially see what this maybe kind of narrows out some of these, and then go to my list view. I'm going to sort by my distance. And I'm going to see what I get here. So we got to figure out why this one is bigger, better, badder. Look at that view. Clearly remodeled. We've got our garage. Did a real good job. Probably not a super larger lot. I kind of skipped over a key factor here. I'll take all the lessons. I got many for you for the long haul. That's why I sent it in. I hear you, buddy. I had to check off both, not only MLS. To pull any on PropStream. I'm quick to jump to another software, but yeah, that's a good solid point, Joey. I'll do that to compare and contrast on these. I don't usually actually have that problem in PropStream. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, what am I looking at here? Is this Like what? What? Why is there a wall of? Why is there a wall of bushes? Look at that. Did they think that was like the most possible secure way to, like, that is bananas. That is like an impressive street view. I'm gonna go ahead and say you should include some funds to remove some of that to give this bad boy some curb appeal again. We're just gonna go. What's so crazy is, like, I bet it's probably needing some love and some paint. They did a pretty good job, it looks like, of taking care of the house, but they sure covered up that front portion real well, didn't they? So it looks like they may have enclosed this garage, which is not my favorite thing in the world. I really just don't like when people enclose their garage. I don't think it's very valuable. All right, so we're gonna go in and get to comping. That was our pretty little comp there on 929 Terrace. That was at that 142. Let's look at this one. This is very clearly a different style house, but this has been remodeled as well. This does not have a garage either. This is a 3-1 at 1068 square feet. So it has more square footage and an extra bedroom. That's not looking lovely for us because it's remodeled. But I'm going to select that as a comp, which makes me not feel good because that sold for $70,000. I understand now, Joey, why you chose this to comp, and that it was difficult for you because we've got a great comp right here. I am going to guess that we need to go to the property details page, okay? And here's why, you guys. When you see 2 remodeled properties, this is half of what this is, okay? There's a bedroom difference. There's 100 square feet difference. But why did this sell for so much less than this did, right? And I'm going to tell you why. Where did that other one go? You've got to figure out a couple of things here. This immediately at this point, I'm going to start going to try to hit multiple things here, okay? I want to get into a Google search, right, of both of those properties. So we have 929 North Terrace and we have 938 North Terrace. I'm going to give you a couple before I find out why, because I'm doing this live and I want you guys to kind of start thinking how I think, right? I'm going to give you some possible reasons that are just off of the top of my head that are not included or listed on as living square footage in certain areas of the country. So one might have a full basement, whereas the other one does not. So you have almost double the square footage, actually, right? Sometimes it will be a property package, right? So they sold 2 houses, but they listed it under one address when they listed it on the MLS. Sometimes it will be an error, you know? I don't think so in this one because it says 142. But it could be an error in the price when they entered it on the sales price. It can be a lot of different things, but this is where you have to go figure out why. Like, why did this one? So sometimes what I like to do is go, and this is one of the reasons that I do. One of the things I do love about PropStream a lot is when I go into this property right here and I go and look under MLS details, this is our subject property. I'm looking for what that listing says, right? So I don't have it on PropStream either, unfortunately. So that's one of the reasons I took my butt straight to Google. Okay, so I'm going to look on this one, 3/2/1540. Now I want to see if that matches up with what we had pulled here. 929. Dot, 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 dot. There you go. There's our answer. So it has a full basement. When you go to Google and you see that it's listed as a 3/2/1540, that when you've got to understand that all these softwares are actually pulling from the MLS, or they're actually pulling from county data, or they're actually pulling from blah blah blah. What that square footage, this house is pulling on tax as 940 square feet because they're not listing that basement, but the buyer or the agent is saying, hey, this is actually got 600 more livable square footage. Now let's go dig into these pictures. And so you guys can kind of look at it from a different way, right? Now you understand why this sold for double, because this comp really was 1,060 square feet. This actually has 600 more livable square feet than this. So 500 more livable square feet than this. So the reason that comp stood out is sadly because it had an extra Lord Jesus extra square footage, and it could be attic square footage too. Is this my good one? No, this is the one without the basement, right? Or I say basement because it's more common, but it could be attic. This one is our one with basement, okay? Guaranteed. You'll catch it when you go back through the photos. So this is our top floor. Counting all the rooms, all top floor. You can see out the windows. Boom. This is why this sold for twice the price. Privacy bushes. Okay, so this is why this is not going to be considered in our ARV, sadly. I am going to say this is probably a really good comp. Now, I say it's not going to be considered, but if you turn around and tell me we can make our house like their house, it's going to add to the rehab, but it's also going to add to the ARV. I'm assuming we're not going to be needing or wanting to do that, but let me go ahead and kind of clarify that, you guys. as he says in subject property has a full-size basement as well. Okay, find out for me if you don't already know. Message it in right here. Is it finished out, and how many square feet is it? If it adds 500 square feet to, I don't know why I'm looking at myself. If it adds 500, 600 square feet, then we turn around and we comp this with, we change the square footage. Makes sense? Because we're very clearly seeing a difference in what's on tax and what's listed. So we want to look at both. We want to pull comps as both, as the first floor as well as the second floor. But sometimes basements, I don't know if y'all have been looking, but sometimes basements, they're going to take a lot to look like what that basement looked like. So you have to also consider the finish out. I mean, it has to be primo. That was primo. I mean, it had beautiful flooring that was the same as the upstairs. It had a cool brick wall finish. I mean, it was literally treated and finished out like a first floor living space. You know what I'm saying? So And they didn't add any bedrooms and bathrooms on that second floor. It just looked like it was one big open space. And I'm sure there's probably another space under there because that didn't quite look like 500 or 600 square feet to me, but maybe it was. But for me, I'm telling you right now, if I had the option between one or two so far on these comps, I'm paying that 140 to get that second floor. I mean, that's an office, that's an art studio, and a workout room. Or if you have kids, as a playroom, a second family room. It's all of the above. I miss living in a place that has basements. Texas doesn't have basements. Makes me sad inside. Okay, so I'm going to finish pulling this really fast. Joey, we're probably not going to get to 100%. Needs work. Seller said it's scary. Yeah, we're going to have to dig into that rehab number to actually come with our offer price. But for comps, I'm going to finish the comps portion up right here, and then we'll go through numbers here as soon as we get off of the live when I have all of the information, right? So let's get back into these. Look, we need to figure out how much square footage that full basement is downstairs. We can oftentimes, not all of the times, go and see, but a lot of times, 1 story, 912. So sometimes I would just ask the seller, what is it, about 912 square feet on our basement, right? Because that doubles this. So that means you're going to end up, when I pull that min and max out, I'm already on MLS. I'm going to click both. Maybe I want to like sit here and type in a 1,500 minimum. This is a non-disclosure state. It's stating up here. I'm going to go back and 0.5 miles. Even though I was loving what I was comping on batch, I'm kind of showing you. Property type, I'm going to go get rid of any duplexes. I mean, that is the property we already saw, so that one would be a comp. You guys got to make sure you're not including rehab for a 900 square foot property. You're including double the rehab here if you're finishing out that basement. Even more if it has problems. This is interesting. That probably needs rehab. We've got some good ones here. You've just got to go verify if this 177 is all first floor square footage. Eesh, yeah, I don't consider that a comp, you guys. This is where that really comes into play, okay? Basement square footage is not considered the same as a 2-story 1,800 square foot house versus a 1-story 900 plus 900 extra livable square footage. And I guarantee you it's not 900 extra livable square footage in that basement. It's probably actually less. It's possible, but oftentimes it's going to be like 600 or 700 square feet, you know? Maybe not, but I'm just saying you got to be cognizant of these things. You don't want to end up going and comping this now with a 2-story house that's 1,800 square feet. You see what I'm saying? I really like that 142 comp as a comp, or you can keep it as a 900 square foot house and, you know, use those lower comps. But I would run numbers both ways, and I would bet you're going to be better off finishing out that basement if you're a flipper. So let me actually click out of these. We already know this is a comp. We will look into these. We already know this is not a comp. I'm wondering how good of comps, good a shape these are in. We want to look immediately on this and see if this is another 2-story house. What are we dealing with here? Oof. This might have an extra basement looking at that condition, but I'm guessing that's not a comp. I'm guessing this is not a comp. Maybe. Ugh, this is pretty historical. This one is really tricky. I'm looking for more in this 140 range because that's what makes sense to me. So hopefully these next three do us some good, right? Because I really think that that's like a really good blueprint property to me. And if you remember when we first saw it, of course this is brick, but 321626. That's all up top. This is a little weird one. It really is. I kind of need to feel better. This one looks like we might be tracking a little bit more. I'm really hoping this has a good basement, but that condition. So if you can't tell right there, you can always click on those property details like this. Man cave. You're so funny, Robin. Man cave, she shed, you know. I mean, I like a good man cave just as much as any man likes it. This is what I love to see. Over 1,700 square foot, 2 on the main floor and 1 upstairs. 2-bath garage. This is weird. I didn't really see an upstairs. Sorry, I'm just reading through this fairly quickly. It's just repeated over and over and over. Unfinished basement. Man, I really want this to be able to justify like 140. And it's frustrating me that I'm not finding multiple other comps for us to do that basement in. The safer plan may be to not count on it like that. I mean, especially if you're adding, at least another $25,000 in the rehab of that. It's a little. This doesn't have a listing description, and it says it has about the same basement area. This might be a good one. That says like 139 is what it was. If we have the basic same build here, man, this one is tough. Have I ever mentioned like I'm not in love with Kansas? The best thing to come out of Kansas. I'm just going back here to just justify, because maybe I missed something because I was so confused by the wallow bushes. But yeah, no, this is all that one story. We enclosed our garage. This probably even adds extra square footage, but I would almost back it out. Finishing out that basement. It's in really ugly condition. It's gonna have to be at least a minimum of $50,000 in repairs to finish that basement out. You want to take the garage back, add a little bit more, but you would add a little more to your ARV. You'd really have to do the whole kit and caboodle on this. One of the things this is telling me in this market, you can really be flexible, right? You don't want to comp this with those 2-story and unfinished basement houses that are selling in the 150s to 180s there. This is going to be in that, in my opinion, 140 and between 110 and 140 price range if you'd go do that whole remodel in there. I'm just trying to figure out what number exactly we sit at, right? And sometimes I'll just go in and run the number. Why? Is this like the basement square footage? What is happening? Sometimes I'll just kind of go see if I run the numbers at the max ARV, 140,000, and I throw on the max repairs. Say it's 55,000 here, right? What number does that put me at? And then I'll say, okay, let's leave the basement unfinished. And does that need any work? Let's just remodel the top. Let's just put $35,000 into this house, right? And then sell it. And I see what those numbers put me at. And run the ARV at like a maybe 110, and go in and I comp it both ways. And I go in and I run the repairs both ways. And see, a lot of times if you end up with the same number, why do you want to do more rehab unless you have to? And so kind of like see what my offer looks like there. Especially because if you end up close to the same offer, you feel a lot more confident than in your comps either way. Like no matter what your rehab plan is, you're going to go ahead and choose that after you walk the property, after you get those more details. Just because you can justify a higher ARV doesn't always mean that you get better numbers, because you have to put in more repairs. So that's another really important principle you guys need to pay attention to. I'm going to go back into these. Man, this one is, I really want to keep finding that 140, that 140 number. Did not pull me up. Boop, boop, boop. So I want you to kind of run the number both ways, because we'll pull up these 105s and these 110s. You're definitely not going to get into these 175s. We've already determined that. I know they're possible comps, but those are looking like every one of them is that 2-story with a, 1-story, 2-story, probably a basement, and you guys got to understand, I'm just looking right now at 15 and over, 1,500 square foot and over, just because I wasn't finding more of those comps. Ugh, you get double duty comps on this one. Three bedroom, 3 bathroom, 2048. Oh, we did click on this one. So yeah, I'm feeling like you finish out that basement, you can comfortably say the market will give you. We already pulled that one up, but I'm going to pull it up to use for an example. And then you want to go ahead and you want to do 1,400 as your max. And I'm just going to shift fast. Okay. 154. So this is showing a 3-1, 1311. You have what I would consider more of a finished out attic space there. You have like a historic bungalow home. So these are really something that you want to also consider. This, like, we're not really going to turn our house into this necessarily, but you want to double check and see if it's like in a historic district. We got to get, this is just proof we got to have our covered parking here. Look at the snow on the ground. People don't want to be dealing with that. Aha. You do have this extra story right here. Guarantee you end up with a finished out basement here too. Or an unfinished basement there. That's 154. I think that's too high for ours. We don't have a portion of second story on our house, right? We keep verifying that with anything over, now that we're pulling our property at max 1400, you want to see what the highest ones are on here. 1938 build. Where do these stairs lead? Is this leading to the basement? Yes, it is. So this is actually one that you're going to want to dig into. Again, we got to get that garage opened up. It's a detached one-car garage. I'm thinking we've really got to, again, double check what our distance is here. These almost look like maybe, is this a little historic area over here? What are we looking at? This says property number 26. So it's on our side of the road. It's not that far away. But we want to make sure we double check that too, because that can make a difference in price as well. And again, I sorted this by price, right? I'm trying to just double check on all of these. I'm not going to click on these on this live really fast, because I want to just pull up photos right here, and it was taking a whole hot minute to pull stuff up. 4 total rooms. Forced air fireplace. Look at that basement area. So this is ending up being almost, see, it's sold at that 152, but when you include all of the square footage, it's still got like 400 more square feet than us. You can justify utilizing it to get numbers, utilizing it to understand what your home will justify on the market, right? So it has brick. That doesn't mean it can't give you data. It has 400 more square feet and it was outdated. That doesn't mean you can't get data. All of this and why these types of homes are a little bit harder to assess is because you have to really dig into the details. And this is, this takes a lot longer for you to sit there and say, okay, I can really justify. So if I have an 1,800 square foot property that is remodeled, compare the price per square foot, right? So I'm just going to go back here and look at some of those property details through this whole process and really kind of sit there and say, I know I picked this one. I like this little range right here if we finish out the basement. And what does that tell you? That's like a 126 a square foot for finishing out the basement, right? So if we just did the $1,000 or 1,000 square foot max, right? And look at all of our properties that are, and we keep it as an unfinished basement again, right? Remember, this had a finished out. Maybe this wasn't this one. When you start looking at these, they're more than likely going to have those finished out basements. And that's why I said these really aren't. But if they have that basement space that's unfinished, let's just look into those. So you can kind of put it on your rehab plan. Now, this is completely maxed out. So 4-1 guarantee you it's got a clean basement. Let's just put it that way. Why not be as clean as that first one? Oh, it's got real clean upstairs. Attic right there. It might have an unfinished basement. I almost guarantee there's another bathroom too. So again, you're really going to have to maximize all 1,800 square feet on that, right? But one of the things I want you guys to pay attention to is that this plan, your price per square foot is not that different. So this is one of those things that people run into that's dangerous. You want to verify with both of those plans what's about your average price per square foot on that living space, and run it. Are you running it at 100 or at 1,800 square feet, or are you running it at 900 square feet. So I really think that that's why you see those. That's why I said, why does this one double this one? So you can almost assume like an ARV of 105 if you want to clean up the basement but don't want to finish it out really pretty. But you've got to maximize that square footage if you want the basement to be considered by a buyer on the market, and you want to get your like 140 out of it. So 2 plans, 2 different rehabs, 2 different barrels of monkeys as far as your ARV goes, and that's probably why you sent this one in. It's a whole hot mess trying to figure all that out and dig into all of that, but that's kind of where my numbers land. So it's $30,000 to $35,000 remodel between a $55,000 remodel on those different plans, and I'd run those numbers both ways. I'm assuming you're probably going to end up having to go with that 140 plan and fully remodel that basement, because when it says scary condition, that leads me to believe in order to pass inspections, you're probably going to have to do something in that basement, but maybe not sometimes. So all right, guys, I am going to squeeze one more in. We're going to go at the 6301 Ellsworth in Fort Smith and see what we got. I'd have loved to get a couple more comps in for you guys this week, but this one was a doozy. I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we kind of discovered, why our properties were so dang old different when it got down to it. Let's see what we got here on Propelio in Fort Smith. I can give you guys a separate example. Bow, 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 bow. Man. Well, maybe it's just not working today on my live. I mean, I've never had that happen. 3 in a row. It's unfortunate. But it happens. Sometimes it's the only place I can pull what I'm pulling. Not as often anymore that you run into that on any of them, but thinking maybe I screwed up something, because it's weird for it to not be 3 in a row. All right. I actually don't even remember who I'm comping this for. Let me scroll back. Oh, Mario. Good to see us. I don't know if I mentioned that. All right. I'd love to know how many bedrooms this is, but we may have to go on a Google hunt to find that out. Very clearly a very busy road. We have to be cognizant of. Got a highway right here. Really funny. The first time that I ran into a highway, that was not a big deal. When I was comping, I was like, that's a highway. And it's like, oh, no, it's not really. It's just country road. So sometimes I do go to the street map of the highway. Just a little tip and trick. I'm really going to stick very close to these comps right here on this one. These are going to tell me a lot. I may not even look too much further past that. Boom, 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 boom. We've got a very drastic difference here. So we got to figure out why one of these things is not like the other. We've got like 3 in the like mid hundreds, and then like almost 2, way over 2. So this is going to average out at what, like 225 or something like that. So that's bananas. So let's see what's up. This one's on our street, so it's the first place I'm going to go. We also have the evidence that our oh, dang old Fort Smith. This is one of the things I just get so irritated about when I'm doing lives for you guys. I'm really trying to like show you right out the gates. Just click on my photos and not have to go to all these other tabs because I want to get in as many comps as I can for you. But it's worth it for you to have to see what we have to go through while we're in discovery mode. All right, so we know what our property looks like, and our very fancy circle drive. Let's see, this image was captured in 2014, so it could look very different all these years later. And then I'm gonna have to just start doing this number to see what we look like because it's not pulling those photos up, right? I'm gonna double check a couple of things. Look at this, the way that this was listed. So some of this information is going to be pulled unreliably, unfortunately. Again, you can click on both right here so that you can see what we're dealing with, but I don't see anything different, right? So I'm going to go back to that street view of 6310, which is our first and closest comp by distance. Victor, I don't think I'm going to get to that before I have to sign off here, but if you message me on social media, I'm happy to take a look into that for you. Only because I'm an hour and 40 minutes in at this point, and I've got to pop off here. I'm already past due. Joey's comp was a doozy. So we have like a really large lot here. So clearly this is very frustrating. Is that a half-acre lot as well? What year build do we have? I'm going to go ahead and guess. If I pull this up on batch, I'm not going to get any better information because this is due to the fact of what they have disclosed, but I'm always going to double check. As is an example on the first comp that we had, batch was the only system. Oh, maybe it wasn't. We had to go to MLS on the last one in Wichita. That was the one that didn't have anything on Propelio. See how this automated within 5 miles? Again, that's why I'll end up going in there and setting my default filters. So changing up my filters right there. I'm just going to go in here and sort by distance once again down here on my list. I click that little up arrow and look at that. Look at that. All right. All right, batch. I see you, girl. I see you. Or I guess it's Guy if I'm talking to Evo or Jesse, but Annie, I see you, girl. Look at that. It's beautiful. Let's see. That's a huge lot. Okay. That's telling me that, again, we're in discovery mode. We've got to figure why this one sold so much higher. So let's just, for kicks and giggles, let's get our lot size, right? Let's see what else we can get a little over and under our lot size and realize like, hey, that matters here in Fort Smith, doesn't it? Now, this one sold at this price. Now, let's make sure we're checking. Hey, our square footage is in line. Hey, we still don't know all our build years. Do we need to go back here for our build years? Do we have more build years? Dang it. So I'm wanting to comp this one over here because it's giving me my lot sizes a little bit more accurately, and I really love that. Because as you can see here, all I'm doing in my comps is looking for data, and I'm looking to see if I can turn my house into what their house looks like. Hopefully, I'm just gonna back right out of that one. I'm gonna see if there's another like that ranch style like we have, which I'm positive there is. Oddly enough, these look a little bit newer to me than our property looked. We have a 2006 though, and I don't see another 2000s build listed. So I'm gonna have to go back to my street view and just double check myself. Let's just start looking through some of these photos. Good gravy. Now that thing is beautiful. I like the way that one looks compared to some of these others. I guess that one kind of, let's get back to our street view. Very clean. Now this is kind of what I would expect ours to look like. Bear with me, you guys. I don't want to screw it up. 6301. Am I just screwing it up in my head? Oops. I think I just screwed it up in my head because of the one with the almost like 1.5 acres looked older. I bet you ours is actually way clean and way new looking, kind of like those. I just kind of screwed it up in my head because that landscaping choices took a lot away from that curb appeal and made me a little nervous. And in it, without it having those build years in there, I'm like, I don't want to like comp it wrong. So yeah, like I'm guessing that this is brick or siding. I'm gonna go look into those. I mean, I'm positive that's got to be brick. I mean, you can look on those property details. That's got to be brick. So that makes me feel really good about these comps here that I've selected, right? Even though there's a different look, that's still our brick, right? I'm assuming all these comps that I chose right here, this one is a 4-bedroom, but sold for $215. 206, 215, 229. I really want to look into this one. That one is the one that sold the most. I want to make sure it doesn't have anything like a pool, anything crazy like a basement, as you can tell from the last comp that we did. I think it's just really well remodeled. I want to go through those photos. It's really good that it has a chicken coop. Is that worth $10,000 in Fort Smith? Entirely possible. Entirely possible. I think this, also it having like a little bigger of a lot, I think that we have to be really cognizant of that here, you guys. It's not that much more, but it is a little bit more. I think that this is the highest lot square footage that I chose. So, it's only like 6,000 more square feet, but clearly that's important. I wish I really had build years, and I might individually go just verify what those build years are. But this one was a 1963 build. It might not be that important. This lot size is that important. So very quickly, I am choosing like these comps. I'm not choosing this one because this had a ton more square footage, right? But I really like these comps for our house, especially since we have a 2006 build, right? I feel really comfortable with those right now. I'm going to go hit this second page up and just see what else I've got here. I mean, this is fantastic. 2005. I'm really going to assume that these are starting to get something's odd and off about that one at 270. It's just way too high. I'm looking for that consistent, you know, this 390, way too high. 409, way too high. I'm not seeing anything here that would make me think that that's justifiable, right? So you really want to stick to these right here. If you select this 390, you've got to figure out what in God's name. They've owned it for something just doesn't feel right. Something ain't right about that. But I would dig into it without spending like all this time on the live. I'm going to go ahead and verify and go and do exactly what I did on the last one. I'm going to go verify why that's not going to be a comp. First and foremost, oh God, can't believe I just did that. I clicked off it wrong. First and foremost, we already know that those comps, like right in our little group right here, this being like a dividing line factor, are going to be the most likely. We already checked that these is not. This is on the too close to that busy road. And we want to go check and say, okay, where was this one? This one was a good comp. This one was a good comp. I know we had another 225 in there. Yeah, there it is. There it is. And that kind of makes sense. This one was the 231. It kind of makes sense why that one was like our high one out of the little group that we chose. It is in like a little bit of a different area, right? It really is. These two super high ones are over here by each other for a reason. I'm not gonna dig into why here on this live, but understand, you guys, that you're not looking for like the outlier. Whatever makes these two this high will come clear to you. And I'm gonna go ahead and throw that number based on those comps. Those are the comps I think that will be on the appraisal. When you have extremely low, those are distressed. Those are interfamily transfers for whatever reason, takeovers, rehabs, whatever that might be, tax sales, short sales, whatever. When you have the extremely high, that's also usually tells you something like sold in property packages, has more square footage. They're on like a ranch. Maybe they're just in a neighborhood on a golf course on a lake. They're separate, just because they're within half a mile. But when usually you'll see them grouped together if you have the extreme highs and you're really wanting to try and stick with like, hey, these are going to be our real comps. Like I said, offline with Mario, I'm probably going to go click on him, dig into it, message him, but I'm already going on 2 hours for this comps today. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick with our little group there. 220, 225 is where I'm thinking you're going to be on an ARV on this one. So those are what our comps show. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, especially since we had another reschedule from Wednesday to Thursday this week. Everybody that's watching still, please give us a thumbs up and make sure you go ahead and catch my partner this weekend because he's going to be bringing the belts home. Closers Olympics this weekend. Go cheer on RJ, the king closer. The people's champ from last year is going to be the real champ this year. And I will see you guys next week. Appreciate you for tuning in. And have a good week, guys.